Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for a big change? I'm sure at this point in the day, you're ready for a big drink. And that will come, but bear with me. Romans, lend me your ears for just a few moments because I'm going to try to recap some of the themes that we spoke about today. And I want to tell you about this incredible opportunity that we're experiencing right now, at this moment in time. If you're a storyteller or a creative activist, now is a great time because you actually have the opportunity to build the world of your dreams. And for previous generations, that was an option that was available only to a limited few, the elite of society. Everyone else struggled for survival. But thanks to the hard work and the ingenuity of previous generations, today we have a luxury of time and resources that frees us to pursue a creative vision. And in a way, the inventions of the previous generation, they serve as a kind of platform for our own innovations. We get to build on top of the innovations of previous people. If you're watching this video now on a computer, imagine just for a moment all of the inventions that make this possible. First, you have electricity and telecommunications, and then the microprocessor, and then the miracle of digital video. About 12 years ago, I worked on the team that put video on mobile phones. It was extraordinary at the time, but we never scarcely imagined that there would be a time a decade later when 1 billion people would have that power in their hands on a cell phone. Really, truly, today, everybody has the ability to publish content and reach millions of people. And so, congratulations, because you're really part of the luckiest generation of humans that have ever lived. And I have a question for you, you lucky people. The question I have is, what are you going to do to make best use of that incredible opportunity? What are you going to do? You know, earlier today, the other speakers talked about dreams and childhood and the imagination. I want to tell you about the second part of the equation. At some point, you have to stop being a dreamer, and you have to wake up and fulfill your dream. Wake up and take action. Because in dreams begin responsibilities. And these are the words of William Butler Yeats, the Irish poet, who reminds us that dreams are just a starting point. And when you have a dream, then you have the responsibility to go out and make that dream real, make it concrete, and make it so great that it inspires future generations, just like those generations upon whose technology and innovation we are building today. That's your opportunity, that's your obligation. Our theme today is transmedia. And as other speakers noticed, it's an ugly word. It is, it's an ugly word, but it's a really cool concept. You know, content that travels with us from device to device, and it responds to us. If you're going to produce for this medium, then you're going to engage an audience, a brand new audience that wants to participate. They want to play, if you'll let them. If you do so, you're going to wake them up too, not just yourself. You're going to wake them up from a trance. I'm not talking about transmedia, I'm talking about transmedia. I'm referring to the past 60 years of broadcast programming that has literally put us in a catatonic trance for 4 hours every single night. Passive programming does that to us. They call it programming for a reason. We're building a new medium for a new century, and the second century of electronic media is all about communication, participation, and engagement. But if you pursue this path, well, let me tell you, you have a chance to be a creative activist. I work with the Creative Visions Foundation in Malibu, California, and we believe in the power of participatory media. We believe that storytelling can touch lives, change people's opinions, change their minds, and ultimately change society. And we're backing creative activists around the world, and collectively, with their stories, they've reached over 100 million people. You can be a creative activist as well. All you have to do is start to take some concrete action to make your dreams real and make it participatory so that you wake up other people and change them. And bear in mind, if you pursue this path, it's not a solo pursuit. It's not a solo performance. It's a participatory process. It's collaborative. And so I've had this opportunity in my career to produce on just about every digital platform, beginning with television and then computers and game consoles and all the way to mobile and tablets, just about every single digital platform. And along the way, I've realized that we need a structure for creative collaboration. And so today, what I want to do is share with you some thoughts about how best to manage a creative project to bring it to reality. I call this process the 7 gifts. And honestly, these are thoughts I'm just putting together, some observations of skills that you can learn. I call them 7 gifts because you can give them to yourself. You can learn them. and you can share them with your collaborators. The first one is the spirit of joyful adventure. You get to choose what attitude you want to adopt to your project. You can make it misery if you wish, or you can make it a joyful adventure. And so imagine the story of the hero. It's a story that we're all familiar with. Every culture has this story pattern of the hero. He's called on an adventure. He faces challenges. He surmounts them. And then he returns to his people a hero with some great prize, some great benefit for his people. Here's the thing about a hero. They're not born that way. They're created. They're made by a process. And if you choose to pursue this path, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to follow. You're going to follow the call of your curiosity. Your curiosity will grab your attention. And if you want to really, truly have an epic adventure, you're going to pursue it. You're going to follow that creativity to its extreme. Think about extreme curiosity as the motivator, the prime motivator behind your project. And when you go out into this new world, this new land, this uncharted territory of transmedia, there's no rules. You're going to be on an adventure that's all about discovering something brand new. And what makes it exciting is that it's risky. It's risky. It's the unknown. You might fail. You might make a mistake. You probably will. You'll certainly be tested. You're going to be tested sometimes severely. And when you're tested, what you're going to discover is what every hero knows. Every hero learns this in the process, which is that they have within them resources, great reservoirs of skill that they didn't even know about. What makes them a hero isn't that they bring a weapon or a tool or some equipment on their journey. It's what they discover within themselves, and you learn that through tests. And so when you're tested and you'll face a challenge, it might be your team, it might be the technology that's so hard, it's still an infant technology. You will certainly be tested, and what you'll discover is that you already have within you every resource that you need to be successful. You have the ingenuity, the creativity, the insight, the judgment. And so your journey is a journey inward. It's a journey of self-discovery and transformation. And by turning inward, that brings us to the next two gifts, the gifts of intuition and perception. They come in a pair, I'll explain. Intuition is what gives our dreams meaning. Dreams are not meaningful. Dreams are illogical. They're just electric impulses that come in a series of random impulses in our brain. They don't follow a particular sequence, but the rational mind tries to superimpose a narrative structure. It struggles to try to understand these electric impulses. The rational mind craves meaning, and the intuition is what supplies it. And it's an amazing process. It happens automatically. It happens when you're asleep. Your intuition generates all the connections and the associations that make those random impulses into a linear story. Now, that's phenomenal generative capacity. That's a phenomenal power that each of us has, but what's interesting about it is most of us deny it. Most of us don't practice it. Most of us refuse to acknowledge our intuition. If you want to master intuition, actually you can do it. It's not that hard. All you need to do is frame your project, the challenge you're facing, as a question. Ask yourself a question, and actually address the question to your intuition. Before you go to sleep at night, ask yourself this question, and when you wake up in the morning, something magical will happen. Your intuition will show you signs. Pay attention. They may be very subtle. They won't come in the form of words, because the unconscious mind doesn't speak with words. It speaks with images and symbols and sights and feelings. And so when we talk about intuition, what we're really talking about is our ability to understand our feelings and pay attention to them. And when we talk about perception, what we're talking about is the ability to sense the world around us. So put a slightly different way, intuition is about learning to pay attention to the signals from the unconscious mind. And perception is about learning to pay attention to the signals from the world around us. And in the middle, you have this exquisite apparatus, which is your human nervous system, and it can take all that sensory input and convert it into new ideas. That's the essence of creativity. Sometimes we're astounded when we look at great creative minds. We look at them and we say to ourselves, oh man, how do they do it? They must have some kind of special insight. But they don't. They've just practiced the art of perception so well that they can discern patterns long before we see them. Some people say that great artists have vision. I disagree with that. I disagree because I think people are making an excuse. When you say to yourself, oh, that artist has great vision, what you're saying is, I don't have it, therefore I don't even need to try. The fact is that artists have the exact same perceptual apparatus that we have. They're no different. They don't have special powers. What they've done is they've practiced the habit of perceiving such that they notice details. They're practiced at that skill. So I think vision's a little bit overrated, and I think it's an excuse. I believe if you're going to produce in multimedia, what you need to do is work on more than just your visual skills. You need to work on all of your skills, all of your senses. Activate them all. The sense of sight, the sense of touch, the sense of smell, and so on. And this can be a collaborative process. It's actually really fun. Imagine if you're working on a project. For instance, let's say that you're working on a project together with your team, and you're trying to describe a new concept. The concept is bright and fresh. All right, you say to yourself, how might we express that differently? You say that to your team. Well, how would it smell? How would it taste? I know, it's a silly question. How would it taste? Well, you might say if it's bright and fresh, it'll taste sweet or tangy or sour or citrus. Bam, all of a sudden something magical happens. As soon as you start to use other senses and feelings to describe these things, you get to a very clear perception. You get a very specific image, in this case, a lemon. And once you've got that specific notion, all sorts of associations come. Your mind automatically does this. It makes all kinds of associations. And so we start to say, oh, a lemon, it's yellow. A lemon grows in trees. Lemons grow in hot climates. A lemon belongs in an ice-cold drink on a hot day. And your mind does this automatically. And when it does, what you've done is you've just crossed the threshold into the next two great gifts of creative collaboration. Those are juxtaposition and metaphor. You might describe them as comparing and contrasting. This is the engine room of idea generation. I'll take a moment to describe how this works. Metaphor is one of the mind's great conjuring tricks. It really is a trick. See, what happens is when you get a very clear perception, a very specific idea, your mind starts to go through the vast inventory of all of its previous experiences, and it starts to make mental comparisons. It's making comparisons to experience you've had in nature, in art, from history, from your own personal background and experience. Your mind does that automatically, and it begins to compare and see what's similar. Juxtaposition is about more than a remix. Juxtaposition is about compiling and aligning and mixing and matching and overlapping and stacking and sorting and overlapping and repeating. What you're doing in this process of comparing and contrasting is you're creating a dialogue between different elements. And through that dialogue of comparing, you begin to tease out the essence of the creative idea that you're trying to articulate. There's powerful magic at work here, powerful magic. Think of it. You're taking two completely different ideas, you combine them in your mind, and a brand new third idea emerges. That's magical. That's the alchemy of creativity. And it's a skill that you can master. It's a great collaborative skill. You see, by using the language of comparison and contrast, you're inviting other people to participate in your creative process. Most people don't have a visual lexicon. Most people can't talk about creative ideas. They lack that language. We're just not in the habit of talking that way. But everybody can tell you if something's similar or different. Everybody can give you an example of how something compares. And so this is a great way for you to collaborate with your team. And that brings me to the sixth gift, which is the gift of expression. Now, this is a vast topic, and I could continue, but I'm only going to zero in on one thing for you. You see, when we talk about expression, we tend to think that artists' expression is like the last thing, the last step in the process, a great colorful flourish that they add at the very end of the project, say like this Rembrandt painting, for instance. But I think if you're going to produce in multimedia, that's a collaborative process. You're working with a team, and so you must begin with expression at the very earliest stage. You have to begin at the very, very beginning. Early in my career, I had the opportunity to work with a number of different directors, and this was a great apprenticeship. What I discovered is that every great director has a way of explaining ideas using some sort of visual technique. Some of them use storyboards. Some of them are photographers. Some of them take tear sheets. They'll collect thousands of sheets from magazines and sort them into stacks, and that gives you a visual reference. I worked with Terry Gilliam. He does these giant tabletop drawings, watercolors, which contain the entire narrative, and he can tell you the story just by pointing to this big painting on the table. When I start a creative project, any project, I always begin by creating some shared visual expression so that I can get the ideas from my head into the heads of the people who are working with me. This is essential, this skill of expression, finding new ways to connect with your team. It's a crucial step. And the final step in the process, the final gift, is the gift of collaboration. When creative projects fail, it's often because of teamwork. There's a failure in the team. Your job as a creative leader is to find a way to activate the best skills of your team. Think of it like a conductor in an orchestra. And a conductor in an orchestra doesn't compete with his violinist. He doesn't try to be the best oboe player. What he does try to do is find a way to elicit the best performance from every single person in the orchestra and then combine that into our harmonious whole. When we lead creative projects, we actually cast our crew and our team in specific roles where they can be successful. And if you're going to produce for participatory media, well, then your job's a little bit harder because you actually have to cast your audience into specific roles as well. They want to participate. You need to tell them exactly how you'd like them to participate. Don't forget, there are 2 billion people using social media today, and that number grows at 25% a year. It's easy for us to envision a time in the not-too-distant future where everybody will be using social media in some way. Billions and billions of people. Will you include them in your show? Can you find a way for them to participate in your show? You're only limited by your imagination. The number of roles that you can design for your audience is limited only by your creativity. If someone wants to contribute content, great, make them a correspondent. If they want to participate in your community, great, make them a moderator. You can even ask your audience to fund your creativity. They can be co-producers. Did you know that this year, crowdsourced financing will provide over $3 billion for creative projects? You can invite your audience in at the earliest stage to participate with you collaboratively. So those are the 7 gifts of creative collaboration. And I urge you to take them. Take them: adventure, intuition, the ideas of perception, metaphor, juxtaposition, expression, and ultimately collaboration. Take these skills, practice them, master them, share them with your team, but remember to have a great time and enjoy the wild ride. Thank you.